Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 739. Now, in today's episode, we are talking about how you can live in the now. That's what we're talking about. You see, I think we're so preoccupied by all the things that we do, all the things we've got to do, all the things we don't want to do, all the negative-based thinking, the past-based thinking, which we'll get into, and it pulls us out of the moment. Now, you may or may not be aware of, say, the book. I always pronounce the name of the author wrong. I always forget which one, but say Eckhart Tolle, or Tolle, The Power of Now. Now, for most people, it is good in philosophy terms, but very hard to apply it. It's very hard to apply. So I've created a system that will allow you to live in the now more than ever before, to break free of your future-based negative thinking, to break free of your past-based negative thinking. And therefore, you begin to live more in the now. Like, we're always going to be thinking, and therefore thinking beyond this present moment, and we'll also consider the past. But we want to be able to make sure we do so in the most cleanest way possible on an emotional, psychological, and a physiological level that will really serve us in everything that we do. Because I believe if we're more present with our family, we're more present with, say, our children, we're more present with our pets, we're more present with our customers, we're more present when we're working or studying or learning. If we're just more present throughout our day, we are going to feel so much better. And I'm going to break it down into 3 steps. That's all. And I'm going to probably say it may take at the most 10-15 minutes of your day to be able to release that negative-based thinking, whether it be toward the future or whether it be about the past. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's break that down. So, if we think of what most people experience today as generalized anxiety, worries, doubts, a lack of confidence, focusing on the things that we don't want to happen. All right, we're going, I don't want this to happen. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to fail. Don't want to look silly. Don't want to trip over. All these things we think about. It could be, I don't want to be more in debt. I don't want another bad relationship. This is future-based negative thinking. So consider it as that. The worries, the limiting thoughts about your future. And then we have our past-based thinking. Well, what is that? Well, when we come into this world, we're absolutely in the moment, right? Absolutely in the moment, because we have no idea of what life is. We don't even know if we've got a name. We don't know what things are. We're aware of our experience. Maybe it's a little bit crazy, right? We're crying when we're coming out the womb, probably. But we have no idea what the world is about. And of course, as we go through the ages, a week old, a month old, 6 months old, a year old, 5 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, all the way up to your present age, you have cataloged, you have considered, you have decided, you have articulated, you have labeled many, many different things. You have all these like data points in your past. Now, if you've had a good and great past, like you've gone through no trauma, which, number one, I think everyone has to a less or greater degree. And number two, if your life is all perfect, then the chances are you wouldn't be watching to this point, because who needs to live in the now if life is just perfect in every single way? So we go through the past, and as we go through the past, we may go what I call significant emotional events. Now, these significant emotional events are going to be, I would say, for the context of this live, or by the way, I'm broadcasting live on YouTube as I'm doing this podcast, is that we categorize all these events and we have psychological, neurological associations to them. And let's just say they are negative. We've failed, we've messed up in interviews, we've had the bad relationships, we've had bad money associations, we've had programmed from society, maybe expectations. We've got to be perfect, we've got to know everything, we've got to be able to to live up to certain expectations on a family level, a social level, a global level, a cultural level, a religious level. Like, there's all these different ways that we feel like we've got to be. And let's just say, when we think about some things of our past, there are some negative attachments, where it be limiting beliefs. Maybe those events cause you to believe that you're an imposter, that you're not good enough, you're not deserving, you're not worthy, you're not capable. Maybe you have energetic ties to those. So anger, sadness, fear, guilt, hurt, frustration, shame, all these different emotions attached to those events. So if you think about it, if you're going into your present moment and then you're going into the future, like you're waking up into your day, what are we doing? Well, we're going to bring potentially all those different types of associations if it is similar to the thing we're about to go through. For example, you have one bad interview, you don't get the job, you feel bad, it's not very nice. You go to a next one, same thing happens. Go to another one, same thing happens. Well, the next one, which is coming up in your future, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to remember those events, because that's the data that you have, and you're going to consider it about this future situation. Right? So the past experiences that we have are a collection of data, and based on the quality of that data, and if they're negative, it's not going to be that great quality, we're going to project it into our future. We're going to perceive. And whatever you perceive to be true, you project into your reality. You don't see the world objectively, you're seeing it subjectively, and therefore you're bringing all that energy, the limiting beliefs, the emotions, and especially if it's in the same context. So like job interviews failed, next job interview, you may have the expectation, what if it happens again? What if I fail? Which brings up the anxiety to the future-based thinking, right? So think about it. Most of the time, we're living not in the present, we're living past-based negative thinking, or we're living future-based thinking, or simultaneous past and present, right? How on earth do we break free of that? Well, I have, as I said, a simple 3-step solution for you. And it takes care of both the past and the future negative-based thinking. How do we do this? Well, we're going to start with not the past-based negative thinking, but the future-based. We're going to go a little bit backwards here. We're going to start with the future-based negative thinking. In other words, your anxiety, your worries, your fears, your doubts about the future. How you're going to act, how you're going to react, all those different types of experiences which are future-based, okay? How do we do that? It's a critical 1-step system. Well, there's 3 steps, but 1 step for this part of it. Now, in my main program, we have a protocol where I design things for my clients that allows them to create their day. And I really believe it. When you go there in the mind and you take on the suggestions unconsciously and consciously, you will show up differently. But most of the time, what do we do when we get out of bed or even in bed? Well, we usually kind of get on the phone. We check the news. We think about all the things we've got to do that day, immediately instigating and initiating that future negative based thinking. So what do we do before we start to engage in the real world? Well, you've got to engage on the inner world of you. You have to. It's like the analogy I heard was, imagine you've got those big kind of spinning, what are they called? You go to the fair and you kind of go round and round and round and round. I can't think of it, but you know what I mean. You kind of sit on it and it spins around real quick. Well, imagine it's spinning really, really fast, and suddenly you just wake up and you go to jump on this spinny thing. Well, of course, it's going to cause your neurology to be in a state of heightened anxiety. You haven't awoken in the right way. You haven't kind of got to speed yet when it comes to living in the wild. So you've got to, in your mind, slow things down. Check on the inner well-being and start to create the reality that you want to engage in before you engage in the external reality. So some tips about this is simply rehearsing how you'd like to be. And we've talked about this the episode before the last episode about speaking confidently. We said if you rehearse yourself, seeing yourself in your mind's eye, visually, auditory, kinesthetically, in other words, visual, sounds, and feelings, observing yourself going through that speaking engagement or that speaking environment, that speaking thing you got to do that day, you're pre-teaching your unconscious mind to be able to know how to be, how to act, and how to react. Pre-teaching is critical, and that's why I call it Create Your Day within my program, because we're getting my clients to go there in the mind through these crazy systems that we do, to be able to get the unconscious mind to go, oh, this is how I act, this is how I'll feel, this is what I think about myself, this is how I believe about myself, that I'm worthy, deserving, enough, and capable to rise up today and do what has to be done. Now, of course, if you're not in my program, you're not going to be able to do that, but what you can do as a modified version is go there in the mind from where you are and see yourself going throughout your day exactly how you would like to. Rehearsing your whole day. How you're going to look, how your posture going to be, how you're going to speak, what tasks are you going to do, what are you going to achieve, what are you going to learn, what are you going to get out of your day, who do you want to be in your day. All of those things, you go there in the mind, and guess what? You are focusing on what you want. And why is that important? What is anxiety? What is it? Well, it's focusing on everything you don't want, and therefore your body, your unconscious mind, your neurology goes there, like focusing on what you don't want. And my analogy is like getting into a car, putting on your satellite navigation system on, whether it be on your phone or in the car itself, and then typing in every address, every location you don't want to go to. How long would it take for you to get to the destination you do want to go to? A long time, because there's many places in the world, right? So that's what anxiety is, focusing on all the things you don't want to do or don't want to happen, but going and visiting all those places. So we're doing the reverse anxiety. We're taking what we do naturally with anxiety, but we're putting it into a positive shift of focusing solely on what you want to happen. That's the reverse anxiety aspect of it. And once again, you are pre-teaching your unconscious mind. You're telling your unconscious mind that this is the way forward, that you are going to rise up, you are going to take a stand, that you are going to achieve X, Y, Z, and you are going to feel good doing it. And once again, make sure you're observing yourself. Don't do it as if you're looking through your own eyes. We need to do it in this dissociative way to really pre-teach the unconscious mind. One of the reasons, which I mentioned on that previous episode, was it takes away negative feelings when you do things dissociated, because you're not in the event. And because we're taking care of future negative-based thinking, we want to be doing this cleanly and clearly. So observe yourself, and that will take care of that future-based negative thinking and allow you to be able to have that future-based positive thinking by getting your best friend, I believe your unconscious mind, on your side to be able to create what has to be done and to do what has to be done. So that's step one, by taking care of the future-based thinking. Well, how do we take care of the past negative-based thinking? Because we've got this huge catalog of experiences in our life. Lots of events where maybe we've failed, or lots of years where we've had low self-esteem or anxiety and all the fear. Seems like a big job, but we can do things in a very effortless, quick way. How do we do it? Well, let's just say we've now gone throughout our day. At the end of the day, you do pretty much one thing. And you got to make sure you do this positively. You go ahead and go, as I look throughout my past day, what can I learn? In fact, we're going to modify. We're going to do two things. You're going to ask yourself, what can I learn from my day? That is one of the most protective things that we can do to change our mind. You see, if we think about issues, they all have positive intentions. Anxiety and fear is trying to protect you. Anger is protection. Fear is protection, like I just said. Guilt is a protection so we don't do something bad in the future. All these things are intentionally trying to protect us, but it does it in this overwhelming way that causes us to freeze, panic, and have anxiety. But when you ask yourself important questions, as simplistic as it may be, what can I learn from my day? It means unconsciously, those learnings that I acquire will be in my future, because learnings keep me safe. Insights, epiphanies keep me safe, and therefore my unconscious mind has to absorb it far better. Because we're telling our unconscious mind, if we think that every bad behavior or problem that we experience has a positive intention as a beginning, we're telling our unconscious mind, actually there's a safer way of being, and therefore your unconscious mind is designed to take that on. With the adequate learnings, it has to take it on because its number one prime reason for the existence of the unconscious mind is to keep us safe. That's why it runs all the fight and flight, all the behaviors, all the healing, all the habits, all the beliefs and the memories, all of these things in the hope and the desire to keep us safe. That's why it does what it does. So if we go, what can I learn from my day? We are getting the unconscious mind to take those learnings and have them in the future. And you can even modify that sentence by going, look, what can I learn from my day that will allow me to be safer in the future? Which is a hypnotic presupposition that if I learn here, it will allow me to be safer in the future. It kind of gets our mind focusing on the right kind of learnings. And I said we're going to modify it to make it two. Here's the other thing. Quite simply, once again, simple but powerful and effective. You go ahead and say, what did I do well? What did I do well? Not what you didn't do well. Remember, that gets down that negative. We tend to focus on what we didn't do well to try to modify ourselves, to not do it again, but unfortunately, that doesn't work. There's been numerous studies that if you go ahead and tell someone what they did well, and think about it, if you go ahead and tell someone in your life what they did poorly, what they did bad, how is it going to make them feel? It's going to make them feel depressed. They're going to feel like not trying again. What if you suddenly told that person what you did well? Now let's change your frame of reference. Let's just say one of your family members or best friend told you all the bad things that you did. How's that going to make you feel? Not that good. But if that family member or friend said, do you know what? I really loved how you did X, Y, Z. How's that going to make you feel? What's it going to make you do? Well, in these studies, and they've done this with animals. They actually did it with dolphins. I think it was by Gregory Bateson, by memory, was that they were teaching them these different tricks. And by doing it in this feedback, like being a reward for doing good things, the dolphins would start to do these massive and amazing tricks they've never seen before, because the dolphin is on this high. It's like, wow, every time I do something good, I get rewarded. So I'm going to do something bigger. I'm going to do something better. I'm going to expand myself. So if we take that as an analogy, by asking ourselves what we did well, you're now telling your unconscious mind, by focusing on what I did well, it's going to bring up the rest of your game because you just want to thrive and get better. Isn't that fascinating? That if you start to compliment yourself on what you did well, the things you don't do well actually begin to change as well, because you raise up your whole game, you raise up your whole experience. So the two-part question to this is, what can I learn from this that once learned will allow me to be safer? Or what can I learn from my day that once I learn from will allow me to be safer in the future, to really resonate with the safety protocol of our unconscious mind, the primary thing that it does. Therefore, it's going to forget about all the past stuff because now we're learning. All those past catalog and data points are less important because we're learning and growing. Then we ask ourselves what we did well. What did I really enjoy about today? What was something that I did that made me kind of proud on the inside? then that gets the unconscious mind to level up all the things we don't do so well, because it tries to mimic the things that it does do well, right? This is just neurology. This is brain training. That takes care of the negative-based thinking, but it takes consistency and time. Now, why does it take consistency and time? Well, if you just do this for one day, guess what? You're going to have more days of the old pattern. But if you start to do this in this present moment, like starting today, that last step as you go to sleep tonight, unless it's in your morning to create your day the way you'd like to, you are actually expanding time, right? Because you're creating a distance and a depth from when you first learned. In other words, if you learn this and apply this now and you do it for a whole month, we've now got a whole month's level of data, of learning, of doing things what you've done well. Created it in your mind, which allows this new data to be the new path. The more you do it, the bigger and better things happen. Now, what comes to my mind as I think about that first step, by the way, of focusing on what I want, I ask myself a simple question, and I really love it because it surprises me every time, and it's simply, I wonder how the world can surprise me with something amazing today. That's it. I wonder how the world, and you can change this, say God, or higher truth, universe, higher self, even just the world itself. I wonder how the world, the universe, God, whatever it may be, can surprise me with something amazing today. And that means you are open to look for all the opportunities. It's a little mind hack that gets you at a little deeper level of looking beyond the potentiality, if that makes sense. Looking beyond the potentiality? If not, that would be super cool though, right? To look beyond the potentiality. But what we're doing was we're looking beyond our past model of the world. We focus that this is my world, and now we're going, I wonder how I can be surprised by something amazing today, just out of the blue. And I'm open to see it. And therefore we're tapping into the field, the potentiality of our future. That once again, that takes care to create your day in the morning before you engage in the fast-paced world that we have. You take the time to create your day in the way that you would do yourself justice. Then, as you go to sleep, or just before you go to sleep, you can journal, whatever it is. You can close your mind, close your eyes. And then ask yourself, what can I learn from my day? And also, what did I do well today? But Joseph, you said there's 3 steps. Here's the 3rd step. This can take a bit of time, but I'd say 3 times a day, just for a minute. It doesn't have to be that long. It can be 2 or 3 minutes if you wish. But as we go throughout our day, let's just say it's your morning break. I don't really have breaks myself, but I try to go ahead and stop myself for at least a minute and focus on my awareness. And by awareness, I focus on what's in my environment, because that pulls me back into the now. Like right now, we can all do a little test. And my friend Sandy Newbigging taught me about this, great meditation teacher. And then I've modified it into this kind of process. But if we were to do it together as a group, for those all listening, consider this. Notice where you are in your environment. Notice the distance between what you're watching or listening to me on. Notice other things in your environment. Maybe there's a computer, a monitor, TV, whatever it is, a table. Just become consciously aware of what's in your vision. And as you do that, then notice how your body is. And there's where I started to kind of modify it. Because just being aware of our environment makes us stop of what else is happening. But the way I like to do it is we focus on the outside, but then we focus on the body. Notice maybe your breath, maybe notice your posture. And then as you do that, the 3rd phase of it is just notice the thoughts that we have. Let them come, let them go. But whatever it is, even enjoy the space between thoughts, if that's even possible. It is, to be the observer. So in other words, we're being aware of the outside environment, because that's what we're aware of. And as we become aware of all the things, we then start to put our attention on our physical body. And as we put our attention on our physical body, we're drawing into the inner world of us. And then we start to become aware of maybe the thoughts we have, the feelings that we have, even the space between our thoughts, becoming the observer. By doing that, you do this, say, mid-morning, lunchtime, early afternoon, just 3 times. We're continually just stopping and being present, which is like a reset for your neurology. We're usually so highly engaged with the outside fast-paced world that we don't really do a check-in to stop, to be here now. Therefore, when we do that, these little check-ins, we're starting to feel physically more restored. Our mind and our body is more conscious. We are more mindful. Like, that's where it kind of goes into the mindfulness, right? We want to go and make sure we are just being more mindful of our awareness in our body, in our environment. So if we just kind of put this into one thing, in the morning when you wake up, you go ahead and create your day. Then we're going to go to the last step, which is throughout your day, 3 times a day, maybe more for a minute, be aware of the external environment of you. All the things in your environment. That slows us down. Then we start to become aware of our physical body. That gets us into knowing where we are, being present in our physical body. And as we start to become aware of the physical body, we go back into the awareness of our thoughts, the observer. We slow things down. We do that like 3 times a day. We try it 2 times, see if it helps. But as you then do that, at the end of your day, we go ahead and ask ourselves, what can I learn from my day? The ones I learn will allow me to be safer tomorrow. And then the other question, what did I do well? Because when you do that, your unconscious mind looks for more things to do well in. And to me, my friend, that is my 3-step strategy. My 3-step strategy for living in the now without having to meditate for years and years in the Himalayas. That's what I do. If I want to live in the now, that's what I would do, because and there's no hate or shade on like Eckhart Tolle, but I mean, it's very, like I said in the beginning, very philosophical even, and very hard to grasp. There's no realness to it. But I want to bring the realness application, because we are human, unless you are in the Himalayas, in a cave, meditating, and you have that freedom to do so, which I don't think many of my people are who listen to my work. We live in a fast-paced world. You got kids around your ankles, maybe. You've got your work, you've got your pets, you've got your partner, you've got the environment around you, bills, you've got mortgages, rent. We live in a fast-paced world. We have all the social media. More than ever before, we are overwhelmed with our senses, but our brains biologically haven't learned to adapt to that yet. It's so new that we're kind of almost like in this frying of the mind, because there's so much more information that we've never been used to in the decades before us. So this step, 3-step process, allows you to navigate the world in the busyness of it with all of those things by just creating the life that you want, by creating your day, learning from your day, enjoying what you did well, and being present throughout the day. And like I said, that could be 15 minutes at the most. But when you do those 15 minutes, you actually gain back time, because you're not invested in the stress anymore. You're not invested with that time of procrastination, the self-sabotage. That to me is far more costly in our time, let alone our physical and emotional and psychological health, which just is a unit of time just going and going and going and going. So just doing this will allow you to transform in every way. Now, of course, there may be deeper issues that you experience, like the beliefs of not being good enough, the imposter syndrome, all those things. And if you are a professional, and you've got to be a professional in this, because look, we only work with people who are highly committed and driven, who are financially invested to apply for my main program. It's the one program that I do is fully customized for your unconscious needs. It has many different levels to it. You get to work with us. You get to work with my dad as well, who actually I employ within my program. And you've got to apply, but you go ahead and apply at josephclough.info/talk. There you'll see our calendar and you'll book a one-to-one call with us. Once you do that, you fill out a small application form. So we know exactly where you are, what you're going through, and therefore we're prepared. And then when you show up, we'll get clear on exactly where you are, what you want to let go of, exactly where you want to be, figure out what's beneath the surface, what's really getting in the way, and come up with a plan of action to make it a reality. And that means you can live the life the way you desire. On purpose, in purpose, full of passion, mission, and ambition, knowing you are more than enough to be able to make it a reality. So that is josephclough.info/talk, and that way you can go ahead and, like I said, live your life the way it was meant to be. So with that, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this free episode on how to live in the now. And with that, I'll wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Being in the moment. Why not just be here now? Okay? Many thanks and goodbye.